あなたを捕獲します。あなたを捕獲します。
Alright, can anybody hear me now? Yes. Alright guys, let me get my setup real quick. Give me 1 sec. guys, can you guys still hear me? Or is the game still too loud?
あなたを捕獲します。あなたを捕獲します。
Let's see if I can fix that.
あなたを捕獲します。あなたを捕獲します。あなたを捕獲します。あなたを捕獲します。
Here comes a new challenger! Please select your character. Noel Vermillion. Jin Kisaragi.
Alright guys, how about now? Is it still too loud? No, it's okay, cool. Alright, good. Alright guys, so got a couple of questions to go over regarding about Noel. Let's see. Let's go back up here.
おやめください隊
Open
員
this stuff. Just want to say thanks for your patience. Had to set this thing. This is actually my first time streaming. So yep. So let's try to get into this. No time wasted. Okay. All right. So one of the first things I got was why is 6D and 2D are bad if you aren't sure if they will hit, and also to emphasize what alternatives there are to drive spam, and to also talk about the commitment and risk involved using drive in general. Okay, so one of the things about 6D and 2D you have to understand, like 6D and 2D, they're not frame 1. I want to make that perfectly clear, because a lot of people are under the impression you could just mash 2D or just 6D and think it's fine. It's actually not. It's terrible. Let me explain the reason why. A lot of people don't actually understand that 6D has different frames depending on where you are on the stage. Like, if you're closer to your opponent, like, it comes out faster, right? You see that? But if you go out further, it's like over 36 frames. You see how slow that is? You see how slow it is? As opposed to her doing it faster when she's up close? It's a big difference. Big difference. So when you're further out, it's a bigger risk throwing it out, because look at how long it takes to get to the other side. Another thing about 6D that you also have to understand, 6D's hitbox is actually pretty ass. So, like for example right here, look at that. Look at that flare. Right? Let me get right here. Look at that shit. That's terrible. You see what I'm saying? Like, that flare is not really its actual hitbox. So, you're sitting there throwing out at 6D, you're not even guaranteed to hit even when it looks like you're supposed to get it. So half the time, your opponent's just really hitting you for free out of a move you should have basically been given upon contact, or at least what appears to be frame contacts, but it's terrible. Yeah, it's not really that good, you know. You could thank the devs for that, you know. So that's one of the things you have to understand. Let me check these real quick. I think AB is R2 and BC. Yep. Let's make that. Yep. All right. Throw. So cancel. Drive. Headphones should. Let me change that. Yeah, if I want to record, got that kind of stuff. Alright, so, like I was saying, 6D. Yeah, so 6D, that's two of its biggest faults. The thing is that 6D doesn't come out the same exact speed. The further out you are, it becomes like 36 frames, I believe. I can check that real quick. Give me 1 sec. Go to Datatron viewer. Go to Noel. Let's check the frames on that. 6D. Alright, so the further, like, at its maximum range, like, in general, that's like pretty much anywhere from for example, that's anywhere between like from here to way further out. That's like at max range, is in terms of like its total frames. It's actually 39 frames before it actually hits your opponent. That's a long time. 39 frames. That's a very long time to it takes to hit somebody at max range. Like from here to here, that's 39 frames. That's a long time. So as opposed to if you do it up close right here, this is 26 frames. So this is 26. The further out you are, it's 39. Big difference, people. I want you to familiarize yourself with that. So it's a bigger commitment doing it further out here, because it takes her longer. It takes her a longer time to get to her opponent, and even then, you're not even guaranteed an actual hit, because, like I just explained, the hitbox is ass. He didn't even block. You see that? It's terrible. But give me 1 sec. I'll be right back.
めください隊員。おやめください隊員。おやめください隊員。おやめください隊員。
Alright, so can you guys hear me? Alright, good. Alright, so yeah, like I was trying to say earlier, let's see. Let me try to get this controller right. Acting like a dick to me today. Alright. So, you guys can still hear me? Okay. Yeah, because my controller's being a dick to me. I'm actually using a PS3 controller. I want a PS4 converter, so sometimes they act a little funny on me. So anyways. So yeah, so like I was saying, yeah, the whole thing about 6D, you gotta take into account its hitbox is not really that great. That's one. Its invuln frame starts from frame 4, and then there's actually a gap between the time where she actually does hit you, like around here, like right around here. This frame here, she's not even invuln anymore, basically. Let me see. Let me go back to the Datatron viewer. Let me see. It's kind of hard to catch this frame just right. There. This frame right here. This frame is actually the this is actually the frame where she's not even invuln anymore. So right around this frame, her invuln actually stops, or supposedly that's where it stops. I don't believe that to be the case, because it feels like the invuln actually stops way before then. It feels like it stops like around here when you're actually playing in matches. It actually feels like it stops here before she even goes into the actual hit. So that's another thing you have to look out for. She's not invuln through the entirety of the move. Even while she's hitting you, she's not invuln anymore. The invuln pretty much starts when she's essentially making an advancement forward towards you. So the invuln is pretty straightforward. It's just it's kind of ass depending on the situation. Most of the time, it's not really all that great, especially in neutral, because like I said, it's a big commitment, because you're stuck in a frame where you're going forward in a certain motion, and it's not particularly that fast. Like, it'll be different if you were like say you were like Ragnar, because like he has like something similar to that. It's just like Hill's Fang, but his is faster. Like it travels faster. You see what I'm saying? It travels faster. It's going to make its way across the field. But like if you're doing the same thing with Noel, it's a lot slower. Look how slow it is. Like in comparison to Hill's Fang. It's a lot different. So even though it has ammo to go through projectiles, when you're trying to like go against matchups that with a lot of zoning or stuff like that, the thing you have to understand is that when you're dealing with something like that, you're putting yourself in a situation to be easily countered, because your opponent can still just like, they can throw, they can TK a projectile, something along the nature of that, right? So look how easy that is. That's not hard to do. Like if you're just going through the motion, you're just trying to like do that or whatnot. It depends on the situation, because even though this is like, I want to say this like, I want to think this 14 frames. I'm not exactly sure because I don't know Jin's frames like that. But the point is, they can easily throw a projectile and stop you. Easily. It's a lot of things they can do from here. So you could be going through like a match, and depending on the situation, how they do that, it's a lot of things they can do to stop that situation. They can stop it by attacking. They can throw a projectile and just either jump completely, because that usually happens most of the time. What ends up happening is like you end up basically throwing out the projectile. They end up throwing out the projectile. You basically try to 6D it. They pretty much jump, and you're basically like doing a drive dance under them, and then they come down with a big normal, and then you're stuck in a combo, eating it for days basically. Yeah, they can backdash out of it, but the problem with backdashing, even though they backdash the initial 6D, you're still stuck in drive. So what ends up happening is you basically end up doing this, you know, like a whole bunch of drive stuff or whatever. So they're gonna get caught by it unless they like backdash and like DP'd immediately. That might be something different entirely. So it just depends on the situation, but most of the time in situations like that, it's not really favorable, because even if they go like this is probably like the worst case scenario. They throw out a projectile like this, because what ends up happening is they're gonna like throw this like several times, and the more they throw that out, and you're feeling froggy, and you basically go and try to 6D through it, you're probably gonna block, you're gonna try to go through that, and it's just gonna like hit you for free. My execution is terrible today. Stuff like that can happen, or whatnot. You know, just as an example, because you're just busy trying to block this, and you're just trying to get through, and then neutral just happens. Stuff happens. Or you can probably get something like this. They might air dash in or whatnot, and you just stuck driving. They jump over you and they come down with a big normal. Stuff like that happens. So that's why it's really iffy about just throwing 6D way out. Really iffy. There's a bigger commitment, because you don't have control over how to stop that earlier. Like it would have been a bit different if, you know, it would have been a bit different if it came out as fast as this, like up close, slightly, but it wouldn't have made that much of a big difference. It's no different from me doing like 40 off the barrel or 40, 40 chamber shot to like stop your situation. So honestly, it just depends. Like, even though this is good for like trying to make an advancement to an extent, it's not really at the same time, because again, it's a move that's forcing you to drive, and you don't have control over how drive stops itself and then actually recover to go into a proper anti-air situation, or to do anything about them being airborne. Because even if you try to go like Spring Raid, the thing about Spring Raid, its hitbox is terrible too. Like, it doesn't really have upper hitbox. Like, all this flare, you see all that flare above her leg? That's not even a hitbox up there. They took that out, like in CP Vanilla. So it doesn't even have a hitbox above the area. So it's kind of just, it kind of stops where the tipper foot is at. It doesn't even have an upper hitbox. So all that flare in front of that stuff, all that is it's exactly what it is. It's just animation. So that's what we got to deal with. Hooray. So yep. Let me get my controller back.
めください隊員ドン
受ける
おやめください隊員
Okay. Can you hear me now? Sound devices. Let's do not turn off. Yeah, let's turn that off. Okay. So it should be fine. Alright. Yeah, everything's okay. And my other controller where I get the mic audio from, they turned off after like 10 minutes. So yep. Let's see. And then we're gonna go here. Thing. Guess here.
おやめください隊員
行け行け行け行け
かわせますよおやめください隊員
I wonder if I could plug this up. Let's do this. Man, give me 1 second, guys. Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah, it might be my mic too, because this mic is pretty old, so I might need a new one at some point, even though I don't have as much time on the game like I used to in the past. But anyways, so yeah, like I was saying about the whole 16 thing, I pretty much explained the reason why you don't want to 60 too often. This is a big commitment. The further out you is, the longer it takes for it to actually do anything, and have plenty of time to actually stop what you're doing in the middle of your inbound frames, because it does lose to lows, it loses the throws, and certain attack, like pretty much any attack before it actually does go active, you pretty much stop it. So that's 6D in a nutshell for you, for the most part. 2D. So 2D, it's pretty much the same thing. It goes, its involve is from frame 4 all the way through until it actually hits. So you don't have to worry so much as about like the involve frames from her foot involve after it goes active on frame 4. But the same thing still occurs with 2D. It's 26 frames. So 2D is 26 frames before it actually hits your opponent. The same thing with 6D when you use it up close. So using 2D and 6D up close is the same amount of frames. So that being said, it still takes a while before this actually hits your opponent. 26 frames is a long time. This is really no different from you doing a 6B overhead. 6B overhead is still 26 frames as well. So that's how slow this is. It's just like doing 6B. That's slow. Same thing with 2D and 6D. They're all the same in terms of startup. So the thing about 2D, even though it's from frame 4, it's not frame 1, so of course they can't always meter you. Let me see if I can set up a situation in the corner. Let's see. So, if you try the 2D, I'll wake up, get hit. You see that? That was counter hit. That's me trying to do 2D on wake up. That's not real. I'm gonna show you again. That's 2D. So I'm actually freeze the frame that I'm trying to do 2D. See if I can catch it. Probably can't see the first few frames of it. See that? It's like the first startup frames of it. If they meter you correctly, you will never get a 2D on wake up. I'm just gonna be honest. This will never come out on wake up. This is why you don't really press drives on wake up, because they can always meter you. This is why 6D on wake up is not real, because the same thing happens. It automatically loses to lows anyways. So even if you did try it, like, it doesn't matter. Even if they did like a regular 5B on wake up, right? Let's say they do that. So I'm gonna try 60 on wake up. See that? Okay, 60. Okay, 60 dead. Because it's frame 4. That's the reason why. So you can 40 because it's frame 1 now. If they do try that though. See that? That's frame 1. That's the reason why it works. But if you try to 6D that, you'll get hit every single time. The same thing occurs if they try to throw you. You cannot drive through a throw. I'm pretty sure that's pretty apparent now, but just want to make that clear as well, in case anybody didn't know. So that's pretty much why you don't really 2D or 6D on wake up. It's not really an option, because they can just meter you for days and they'll always hit you. So you're pretty much stuck blocking or like fuzzy jump to try to stop what they're doing. But outside of that, it's not really that good. So it is what it is. Let's see now. Try to get my controller back. It's being funny today.
ぎる弱すぎる弱すぎるそこか受けろ弱すぎる弱すぎる弱すぎる弱すぎる
おやめください隊員。
何が来た
もらいました。ここ
Alright, how about now? Can you hear me now? Okay. Poverty life. Poverty at its finest, ladies and gentlemen. My shitty setup. Alright, so, like I was saying, like, stuff like that, like, things that hit low, stuff like that, or whatnot, yeah, you can 2D over it. Go over some of these characters, let you see. Yep. Probably like melty blood, not necessarily. 60 through projectile was getting blocked. The IAJC wasn't. No. I was using JC as an example. Jin's J2C as an example at the fact that even after they throw out a projectile, they have options to do anything else they want to. By the time you do a 6D, trying to react to the fact that they're doing a projectile as it's getting close to you, they have free reign over what they want to do at that point. You've already committed to this move. By the time the ult actually gets to this frame, right here, by the time she gets to this frame, they probably already in the air above you. Yeah, so by the time you get to this frame right here before she actually does anything with the 6D, they could block, they can hit you, they can jump. They pretty much have free reign over what the hell they want to do to you at this point. Which is why 6D in neutral is, like I said, it's terrible. It's not really that good. So it's a huge commitment there, just because of that being the case. You're in a lot of frames locked to an animation that's trying to dodge in general, but it's not really helping you if the opponent's in the air. Like, you don't have control over what they do in the air, you're just on the ground. You're just doing moves until they hit you eventually at that point. Which is why I was using JC as an example. So, but yeah, but like I was saying, like, back to 2D. No. What I'm saying is that they could jump in general. Like, they could just do a normal jump and just JC on top of you. Like, for example, let me go back to who's Jin? I guess. I think this is Jin. Is this Jin? Yeah, it's Jin. Like, for example, see that? Prime example. You know, if you're way out here, that can happen. Wait, JC on what?
おやめください隊員
You talking about in the mirror or? Is JC a viable thing to do against their president? No. So, no. JC can clash with the projectile, but that's not really a good idea. No. What I'm saying is that if you anticipate them throwing out a projectile in general, you see what I'm saying? What I'm saying is, if the projectile's already here, there's no reason for you to try to do air dash forward into a JC, because you're putting yourself in a situation you can easily be anti-aired. You see what I'm saying? Like, that's if the projectile already reached over here and you're this far away from your opponent. There's no reason to even go into that situation unless you just plan on blocking, like straight. You see what I'm saying? By the time that happens, they can basically do whatever they want. For example, let me see. See what I'm saying? If you way out here and you try to do that, that can happen. What I'm saying is, you want to react to it when it happens here. Basically, you have to anticipate they were going to throw a projectile in the first place. You don't want to wait till the projectile gets way over here at the last minute and then try to do it. Like, you're basically trying to do it at the same time while they're throwing the projectile. By that point, they can't react to it because they've already committed to a frame in which they can't recover enough to do something about it. See what I'm saying? So you want to do it ahead of time, way before the projectile even got to you. So you want to do it when the projectile is being thrown out early, but don't wait till it gets way over here and then you try to do it, because then it can just anti-air at that point. So yeah, so that's not, it's real only if you're doing it in anticipation ahead of time. It's not real if you're doing it late. That's you basically giving your opponent the ability to just freely anti-air into a combo for no reason. So if that answers your question, yeah, that's pretty much how it goes. You always want to do that. Like, you always want to, like, anticipate it ahead of time. That goes with anything. It doesn't even have to be necessarily a projectile. It could be any move they're throwing out in general. So, like, for example, let's say, I don't know where Hakumen is. Let me see, where's Hakumen? Oh, here we are. So, like, let's say, like, Hakumen was way over here. He might occasionally throw out like a 4C, right? So sometimes he might do something like that. You kind of want to do it like that. You want to do it around the same exact time they're throwing out the move. You don't want to, like, wait till the last minute, because if you try to wait till the last minute, what ends up happening is you get hit. Or whatnot. So you want to anticipate it. So yeah, so that's kind of how that works. That's how you want to do it. Alright, so going back to 2D, because I got sidetracked into explaining about dealing with projectiles to an extent. You know, it's a good question though. It's a good question. 2D. So like I said, moves that 2D is decent against. Let me see. I want to see if I can find Kokonoi. This is like Valkenheim. Is it Valkenheim? Yeah, this is Valkenheim. Oh. Coco, where are you? Let's see. Oh. Can't find her. Where is Kokonoi? Oh, sweet. Appreciate it. Alright, good. Alright, so Kokonoi is one of those matchups too where it's pretty difficult to maneuver around whatever she's doing because she has a lot of big stuff that's out there on the field. Like 3C, you see how far this shit reaches? This is pretty far. Kokonoi can have a field day on Noelle with a 3C alone half the time. No, I can't use... no, this is the Japanese version. Like, I don't have an English version with all the stuff that's on there. Like, I have an English copy of the game on the PS4, but I don't play on the PS4. I play on the PS3. I have the PS3 English version. That's the version I play on. So this is the PS4. I'm playing it on this one so I can broadcast. But I don't play on this version of the game. I don't usually play on the PS4. Yeah. I mean, that's how I've always been playing. Because I don't believe in playing PS4, you know, paying for a game that I've already paid for. That's why I don't like to play on the PS4 like that. That's just my philosophy on that. Why should I pay extra money to play online for a game I already paid for? I should already have access to the game. That's just my logic on that. That's why I prefer to play on the PS3, because I get to pay for free. So, but that's besides the point. But anyways, this move, it pretty much stops Noelle from doing a lot in neutral in general against like somebody like Kokonoi. So a lot of time you have to either like jump over it or whatnot, or just be very wary of your position on the field, because anytime you get over here, like, it's very easy for her to cover that distance. Very easy. And you also don't want to go straight into a 2D all the time on her. Most of the time you don't really want to go into it, because she could just as easily go into something else completely different or whatnot. 6D is a bitch to go against. 2C, same thing. They all can hit you out of 2D. So it's iffy. The whole thing about 6D and 2D and 6D is a whole guessing game. It allows you to go over certain things, but it forces you into a risk factor of having to guess whether or not they're going to do a move that directly corresponds to your 2D or 6D that you're trying to get past in the first place. And it's a hit or miss kind of deal. But it's an even bigger risk for you, because you're not working with moves that have guaranteed frames in terms of invincibility to get past certain things. That's the thing you gotta worry about. It was different back then because 2D back then was frame 1. That was a different story. And its arc was higher than the way how CF's 2D is currently. Not the CP one. Not the one where it's a huge rainbow. Not that version. I'm talking about the CT and CS1, CS2, and CS Extend version, where it was the old school 2D before they changed the same 2D into a huge rainbow where she goes all over the screen or whatnot. So even though this one's very similar to the old school one, it's still different in its own way. So so yeah, that's what you're dealing with 2D. 2D, the way you want to use 2D, either anticipate something, like I said earlier, you anticipate something ahead of time, you jump over it, or what you do is while you're blocking and they're doing like pressure. Let me go back to Ragna, for example. Let me see, where's Ragna? Go this way. Light runner right there. Alright. So, Rana. Like, for example, let's go. Let's say he does something like... Oops. Let me switch that back. Let's go to switch guard. So should we have a switch guard? Okay. Let's say we use a block string or something like that. Okay, so I want you to pay attention to something. Right here. That 2D? I mean that, not a 2D, but that 2B? See that pause? There's a slight pause here. After this. And then he goes back in with a 2A. That dash in 2A, he's essentially resetting pressure. Do not use this as an example for all Radnas. This is not a Radna string that you would typically see all the time. But I'm using it as an example. What you do is you kind of use that as an indication to use a 2D. You see what I'm saying? So what you're trying to do, in a sense, if you can bear with the idea, what you want to do, you kind of want to get into a situation where you barrier them out. You barrier them out enough, right? Where they have to dash back in with a certain kind of move, right? So, because the more you barrier them out, obviously they're going to be pushed out further. So they got to come back in with a move that's going to keep them back in front of your face. So the more you barrier them out, it's a matter of guessing if they're going to go for a low, or if they're going to go for a mid. Depending on the situation, if you can make a guess, right? So let's say we use something like that. And then, so if a situation like that, right? Let's say we're barrier. We get 4D there. We get 6D there. Right? Okay. Notice those moves can only go through like mids, like his 5B. They only can go through like mid moves. But if he does like this, if he does like the same thing, but he goes for a low instead, if he goes for that, and you try to do the same exact thing, you're going to potentially get hit. Instead, unless you do like a 2D, you're going to get hit. But he can actually guard that if he wants to. If he did like an option select a 2A, he can guard that 4D if he wanted to. You can actually do that too. See? So your idea is that you want to kind of bear. You want to actually want to instant barrier them out. That's actually the truth. You want to instant barrier them out because it actually increases the pushback and it gives you extra frames to actually counter them a lot earlier than usual. That's why I be trying to tell you guys, anytime you guys are in a situation when you're blocking, you actually want to instant block. You want to instant block or instant barrier them out. It pushes them out a lot farther. And it gives you an opportunity to either escape out of pressure or to stop their pressure. See that? So that's basically how you want to use 4D, 6D, and 2D. Let's see, I'm gonna go here. you guys still hear me? Can you guys still hear me? Okay. Yep, gotta make sure. I know my setup is not the best. I'm trying to work with it. Yeah, but like I said, so that's basically how you want to use your drive defensively. You don't want to hit 40 or 60 on wake up like immediately. That's not really a thing. You kind of want to block first, then try to stop what they're doing. But you have to pay attention to how they're using their moves, how they're using their normals, specials, and stuff of that sort of nature. The thing about it, instant barriering or just instant blocking in general makes this a lot easier. I know a lot of people think like, oh, like I'm not good at instant block. You're gonna have to get good at instant blocking. You're gonna have to. It's just as important as you learning a combo. If you can't instant block, you can't expect yourself to get out of pressure that otherwise you're just gonna be eating for days. That's how you get out of that stuff. You have to practice that. It's very, very important. Very important. You can't get around that. There's no other way around that. This character actually depends on a lot of instant blocking and instant barriering just to get out of certain situations. That's just how Noelle is. She does not have a true reversal. Outside of Fenrir, even then, Fenrir is not as dependable as having something like a DP. Because even though it's auto guard, even though it's an auto guard move and it's one of the fastest super auto guard moves in the game, it's not that dependable because it's only guard point from the first move. It only guard points for one move. You can actually DP through it. See that? It only guard points for one move, and it's only in bone for a split moment. You can DP through that. So Fenrir is not really that good. Like, it's only good for certain situations, but it's not really that great of a reversal overall. It's kind of just like, it's kind of meh. It's kind of just there. You know what I mean? And then there are certain moves in the game that kind of hop over it. That makes it pretty ass at the same time as well. That's just the way it goes. I can't think of anybody at the moment right now who just naturally hops over it that makes it whiff or clash with it. I know Izoi is one of them. Yeah, it makes Fenrir feel like pretty shitty, but you know, case in point, like I said, like Fenrir is not, you know, it's the same. It's in the same boat with these. It's a little better in certain cases, but not really. Like, you're just better off. You either better using counter assault in certain situations, or you know, save it. You probably can use a Fenrir if they're committing really hard. But outside of that, you're pretty much like just barriering. You're just barriering instant blocking. You're just trying to get over that. So that's 2D. That's 6D. I think that pretty much explains 2D and 6D for the most part. Again, guys, I apologize for the constant mic go outs and stuff like that or whatnot. You know, trying to do this as best as I can with the setup I have. Okay, so let's see. I think I pretty much explained the alternatives to drive spam for the most part. Commitment, risk, evolve, and drive usage in general. It's pretty much, I think I pretty much covered that for the most part. You pretty much get the idea. Now, once you go into drive, it's really hard to stop. Like one of the things I like to do, if I do decide to go into drive in neutral, I really don't use 6D much. I might use a 40. Like I might use like 40 to kind of set myself up for a potential hit. You know, try to bait my opponent into doing something they got no business doing. Like for example, so like yeah, CA attempts to do like 6B. It depends. If they break their pressure and they stopped or gave you a gap, that's why your 6B came out. It's because of that. It's not because you missed input, probably. It's most likely not an input error. It's the fact that they kind of broke up their pressure, or they gave you a gap in pressure that ended up turning your attempt into a CA into a 6B. That's what happened. So you basically chose the CA at the wrong time when they didn't give you enough hit stun. You see this right here? This block stance that Rana is, that's hit stun. So you either was out of it, where your character let up off the hit stun guard value, and they resumed back into a neutral state. So when you attempted to do a CA, your 6B came out instead. That's what happened. So you got stuck in a situation where when you tried to CA, you got met in a situation where they weren't even hitting you yet, or you got let off a guard at the time. That's what happened there. But anyways, so let's see. Yeah, you can bait counter assaults on guard and stuff like that. You know, yep, that is a thing or whatnot. Noel's ability to like bait counter assaults, it varies. It's not that great. Simply because most of the time, if you do, you're not doing it the conventional way. Anytime I've ever seen a Noel baited out a counter assault, half the time it wasn't actually them trying to read it. It was them basically trying to use 6D or something like that to like extend pressure, and they just happened to counter assault at the same time when she was trying to reset pressure. They just happened to 6D through it. Any advice on fundamentals regiment? Sure. Let me get to that in just a sec. Second thing we had was Oki. How do we keep people locked down and in what situations? The third one was how to chase airborne targets. Dealing with people who have like floats or extra movements in general. Something like Naoto. Well, I don't know about Naoto because he doesn't really have anything like that as far as I know. I mean, unless you're just talking about his JD. Like, all he has is this. I wouldn't really necessarily call that a float. It's more like he just has a move that just halts his position in the air slightly. Yeah, I know like some Natsu's like to do that, you know, for spacing, but not really. Natsu doesn't really have like, his movement is just as normal as anybody else's. There's nothing particularly special about it. Izanami and Mai are understandable in terms of movement. Tao is understandable. Hazama is understandable because they actually have movement options. Valkenheim, another really big issue as well. Those characters, to address that question real quick, actually, in those situations you actually don't chase them. You don't chase down those kind of people. Not really. It's not your job to. And the reason why is because Noah doesn't have the tools to do it efficiently in the first place. So most of the time you pretty much stay grounded. What you can do is try to meet them in the air in certain places and what you expect for them to make an approach. Then that's a different story. But as far as trying to chase them down, that's something Noah doesn't really do too well in the first place. So if you're trying to chase them down, if anything, you're putting yourself into an even more riskier situation. You're just asking to get hit for free, in a sense. How to deal with big giant normals like 9, Hakumen, Kagura, etc. And Rapid Council stuff and gimmicky things. I'll get into that later. I'll get into the Oki later as well. But I'm gonna go over the fundamentals really quick. Let's see. Not let me go back to the middle. Okay. Here we go. So let's see. I don't know. Unless you have lower health and time are running out. I mean, that's a different story, yeah, sure. Because you pretty much don't have a choice, but even then, they have the advantage still. But like under any normal circumstances, no, you pretty much don't really try to chase them. Not necessarily. Like you can make advancements forward towards them, but as far as chasing them, like actively chasing them, like trying to jump in the air after them and stuff, like nah, Noel's not good at doing that. It's kind of actually counterintuitive. Like if you can anticipate where they're going to land at, like where they're going to be in the air, like you know, you can try like rubber blasts in the air in certain areas, or try to air grab them somehow, but don't make it like your entire focus. Don't try to do that. Like you're actually putting yourself in a more detriment situation than it needs to be. You kind of want to let them come to you themselves, because they're going to come in if they already have the life lead necessarily. Most people don't really consider Noel to be a threat most of the time anyway, so if anything, they're usually coming to you anyhow. They're going to come to you eventually. At some point, because they're just like, they just fall somewhere or whatnot. Noel doesn't really have anything that presents a major threat to most people. Not really. If anything, they may find occasional optic barrels at certain ranges annoying. To an extent, so they may say, I'm kind of tired of blocking these, I'm just going to like instant air dash or something like that. But outside of that, no, not really. Anyways, back to fundamentals. So, fundamentals. What you want to do, as far as like training for fundamentals, like it depends on what you mean by fundamentals. If you're like talking about blocking is something you have to practice on the fly. Or what you can do is have a friend help you in online training mode and ask them to do like certain pressure strings or mix-up patterns and stuff like that. Train. Another good thing to do is like training mode. Training mode is really good. The ability to record certain things. You know what I'm saying? The ability to record whatever you want and figure out how to deal with certain things is really good. So you can always like record something that you've seen and just practice. It just depends. But do come with the understanding that not everybody's going to do the exact same thing you practice all the time. So reaction skills is something you just have to learn on your own over time. It comes with practice and it comes with experience. But yeah, it's definitely something you can look for. Yeah, but yeah, it's a lot of things you can do in practice mode. It just depends on how you use it. You just gotta know how to use, use your resources or whatnot. So you can practice instant guard, instant block, practice instant barrier or whatnot. Practice ways to get out. So you can even practice like stuff like overdrive cancels on block or whatnot. That's other stuff you can practice. You can practice combos or whatnot. Like certain specific things, it depends. Like for example, like if you're trying to practice like pressure, it's an iffy subject. The only reason why I say that is because not every pressure that people do is like universally speaking. Like for example, you can't expect everybody to do the same exact thing. There are certain things people do that are like, you know, that almost everyone do to an extent. Like for example, like some Rondas may do this. This is a simple mix-up string. This is a simple mix-up string. You know. You know. You can't expect for every Ronda to play the same exact way. That's one thing you have to understand. So certain things you can't practice necessarily alone. It kind of requires like another person to kind of help you out to an extent, to give you some information on how to deal with it, or to have them help you practice it against it. If you know how to do it and record it yourself, then you know, more power to you. But that requires you to understand how to set it up and how to get it. That way you actually know how to practice it alone. On the flip side of that, it's more or less communication against other players and learning how to deal with certain situations, option selects, or anything else of that nature. If you're talking about like how to space, there are ways you can sort of train for that. Like for example, in Noel's case, because her spacing is pretty limited and it's very small, she has to know how to position herself. So in anything, if anything for Noel, you want to practice positioning and movement. So that's pretty much the biggest thing you want to practice with her is movement. So let me see. Practicing pressure as far as execution and micro dash properly can be big. Also find in general, even in training mode, just doing things like if that makes sense. Yeah, like pressure strings is like, it just depends on how you make the pressure. Like pressure is free form. It doesn't have to necessarily be a certain kind of string. You know, it can be whatever you make it to be, but there are certain strings you can do against opponents that but yeah, there are certain things you can do against like opponents that that you know, that's specifically designed to like catch certain things, like you know, like jump outs, or you know, like fuzzy guards, back dashes, certain stuff like that. Those are a little bit more specific, and it may vary from time to time. But yeah, but like, you know, kind of move up from basic strings and stuff like that. I already have the doc out for like basic strings that you can use, and then from there you kind of just mix it up. You know, yeah. Yeah, you basically keep messing with it until it feels natural, and you kind of freestyle from there, essentially. You know, like, that's how I learn pressure. Like, I just start freestyling it. Like, there really is like no definitive way to pressure. There's certain strings you can do that like call out stuff, or to like that presents a mix-up opportunity. But as far as like pressure is concerned, you're free to do as you like to an extent. You know what I'm saying? But you don't want to make it too obvious where it becomes pretty easy how your opponent understands how you pressure, and then they're able to just do what they want, even if you're on the advantageous position in terms of offense. So I'm gonna move away from pressure. I'm gonna talk about movement a little bit. So movement with Noelle is pretty important. Her movement involves a lot of micro dashing, like micro dashing a lot, and a lot of instant air dashing backwards to a certain extent, or whatnot, and a lot of this, or this, or whatnot. Let's see. For example, let's say you want to. Let's say you wanna get a better understanding of like how somewhat space with Noel. So if you notice, this is like round start, right? This is round start. So notice the position of both the characters. So you notice every move that Noel has from here, as far as normals, they don't really hit her opponent. However, Rana, he at least has a 5C that can hit you from that space, right? So this is what I started trying to introduce people to, something called, that I like to call, is called like space relevance, where basically, depending on your tools or normals, you kind of label them towards ranges on the field, how much they cover, right? So, for example, in Noel's case, the further out you are, this is probably one of your tools that you're probably going to use to an extent, out the barrel here or here. If you move in closer, certain things like a raw chamber shot is okay. Do not abuse it though, because that is still risky. But a well-timed chamber shot from this spot right here can deter your opponent away from doing what they normally would probably get away with. For example, if the opponent tries to instant air dash into a JC from that range, you can potentially use a chamber shot to stop that actually. So can't use that. See that? So it just depends. You know, you guys can try to move. Got a lot of movement going on here. You can't use a chamber shot or whatnot. You can't anti-air. And then that can also happen too. That's why I say, like, don't use chamber shot all the time. If you know how to use it, sure. But that can happen. That's the reason why you don't want to necessarily get all fancy with it. So that can also happen too. Like, that's kind of like how you wanna do. Like, if you're gonna make a poke, you gotta anticipate. So going back to space relevance. So the way how I learned it for me, if I'm this close, like if I'm from here to here, like anywhere between this space, your 2A, your 5A, and your 2B are pretty much your go-to moves. So the closer you are, the faster your normals should be coming out, which is like your 5A, your 2A, and your 2B. Because they're going to reach this area, for the most part. You're going to reach your opponent faster. Right, so the further out you are, like around here, this is where stuff like 5B is more accessible. Not necessarily 5C, because it's still a little slow from this spot. So 5B is okay. 2B is okay if you're trying to like low profile something into like a into like that. Another good one, like 5A from certain ranges in certain cases can actually stuff certain things. It just depends on how you execute it. 6C is very iffy. The only reason why I say that is because it's a move it's funky. Like, although the first hit does hit mid, the second hit hits high. This doesn't hit crouching. So, and the thing I had to understand about that, its range is not really that great either. So even if you went like micro dash 6C like that, and they coming in locking low like this, and you never made contact with them, like, your ass is pretty much grass from there. That's why you like 6C is not really used offensively like that. I mean, sure, you can use it in pressure or whatever, but the problem with that is, if you whip that first hit and you're stuck doing the second hit like this, you're just whipping a 6C. It doesn't even hit crouching enough close. So, and using this as a potential anti-air, like there's certain applications you can use the second hit for as a anti-air sort of thing, but it's matchup specific. That's pretty much the only reason why. But outside of that, like 60 is pretty much only like one of your punish tools, or it's one of those tools like you use on somebody's wake up to catch jumps, certain things of that sort of nature. But yeah, but 6, the reason why you don't really use 6C up close like this is because its range is pretty short. It's almost about as short as her 5A, or to a lesser degree her 2B to an extent. Its range is not really that great, sadly. So yeah, so from this range, 5B is okay to an extent. Like, if you want to like macro dash 5B, that's how you want to do it. Or like macro dash 2B. Macro dash 2A is somewhat okay because by the time you make that dash in, they're pretty much moving in with you, or they're coming in with their own attack at the same time. It just depends on what the character you're fighting. Further out, like out here, 5C is more accessible because you have enough time to cover that space. Or whatnot. 5B as well. 5B, I don't mind using at this space because of the simple fact it's more narrower than 5C. 5C covers a little bit more under her as well, as opposed to 5B, which is why I prefer to use 5C at that range. From there, a little bit further out, you can kind of somewhat consider Chamber Shot a potential poke, because it gives you enough space to kind of go through the frames to set it up to an extent. You can try a 3C. Like, max range 3C is actually this. So, you see, I'm on a delay. I was referencing to the counter dash. Air dash moves like the canyon. Counters air dash moves like the canyon. What do you mean by the canyon? Yeah, get back to me on that. You might be on a delay, but yeah. Let's see. If you want to know max range 3C, what you do is you refresh the stage. You go 40, drop 5A, and this is max range 3C. So that's max range 3C. If you go out any further than that, it won't hit. So yeah, this is actually the range for a maximum range 3C right here. So just in case you want to know, but you can try 3C from there to an extent. It's not the safest thing ever. It's actually less desired because you go through a huge amount of recovery frames. So most Noels don't really go for a 3C. I sometimes go for a 3C every once in a blue moon to see if it'll connect. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. It's a hit or miss kind of deal, to be honest. 236C. Oh, he's about these. I was referring to the counter air dash moves like the canyon. Oh, he's talking about Chamber Shot. Chamber Shot is not really anti-air. It's just a special for the finish. You know, to finish like short combos. It has a bigger hitbox. You see that little flare right sitting in front of the gun, right above that little circular motion. That little flare up there is a hitbox. It's like it's a hitbox towards the upper half of that flare, and that will actually hit them out sometimes. That's actually one. Chamber Shot is actually one of Noel's best moves in terms of hitbox, because her hitbox is actually behind the flare. So this is actually one of her best moves to throw out to an extent in terms of hitbox. So yeah. So that's actually one of her best moves in that sense. The only other move this is good at in terms of hitbox potential is Aurora Blast. That's the only other move that's like similar, because her hitbox is more on the inside of the move, while a lot of the hitbox around of it, it circles around her box. So it's harder for her opponent to actually hit her out of the move. She may like trade with the opponent, but if it's a move where they extend their hurt box over their hitbox, then yeah, she's probably gonna win the the encounter. The only thing about it is, Robots is an air move, so you're pretty much stuck doing stuff like that. Bloom Trigger is not all that great because its flare is also slightly deceptive as well. For example, let me see if I can find it. See that? See the tip of that? That's what I'm talking about. So, Bloom Trigger, the actual tip of the flare of Bloom Trigger is not actually a hitbox. You have to kind of go past it. Let's see if I can catch it. See that? So yeah, it's kind of like more towards the middle. See that? So yeah. So that's Bloom Trigger for you. Bloom Trigger you do not use for neutral at all. Not really. If you do use Bloom Trigger or Chamber Shot or Optic Barrel for neutral to an extent, what I like to do, I like to use a short string. So what I do is I use 4D to set it up. I go 4D Optic Barrel or that variation, or I go. You can try that. I don't advise it though, because it puts you in a long recovery, and if they jump over that, you're in trouble. You try that to an extent. That's also, it's risky though. Another thing I like to do, I go 4D Dry 5B. Dry 5B is actually Noel's longest poke in the game. And that move right there is actually her longest poke. This is her longest poke in the game. And it's sad it's inside of a drive move, but you know, it is what it is. So that's actually her longest poke. So what I do is I'll 4D. I either like, I pretty much like micro dash into the 4D. So I micro dash into it and go into drive 5B. I throw it out as a poke. And I either end it off with that or go into a chamber shot. So that's something I do sometimes do. I mix it up with 4D out to a barrel or into that or that. Sometimes I will try that too. I don't go into it often though. But the thing about that is on counter hit, it does count as a combo, which is kind of cool, I guess. Let's see. So what will happen is, get that. So in case you're like trying to poke you, or whatnot, that can happen. So they might block the Bloom Trigger. It depends on how the string hits the opponent. The only thing that about this string though, if they jump, you're fucked. Pretty much. That's just pretty much point blank. Yeah, no, we're dealing with a shoot character. So that's what I think about that. But anyways, back to Space Relevance again. So Optic Barrel, you don't really want to spam this. You pretty much want to use it only as a nuisance. Kind of stop what they're doing to an extent to get them to commit into an option mid-screen so that you can take advantage of it. So what you pretty much want to do is use this to your advantage. Like if you're, let's say like, let's try to use Jen for example. Yeah, that's Jen. So like if Jen was spamming, let's say he just started like spamming, you know, spamming like swords, just trying to get you to do something. What you would do is, by the time you hit him twice without the barrel like that, that Gen player is gonna be like, okay, I'm kind of pissed off. I don't like him throwing out the barrels like that. That's kind of annoying. I'm gonna rush in, or I'm gonna like air dash in with something like that. If you can get them to do that, then that's a good thing. Because as long as you can get them to stop what they're doing, like spamming like projectiles like that, as long as it's slow enough for you to stop it like that, and they get irritated by that, you can get them to either like dash in or air dash in, and based on that you have to basically read what they're going to do and anticipate it, and then you can use that as an advantage to get to actually get a hiccup from it. So for example, I can do projectile for once. So let me see if that works. So yeah, that's kind of like the idea. You kind of want it to be like that. Let's see if I can imitate this. So something like that might happen. Oh, not close enough. So yeah. So basically, trying to anticipate what the movement is going to be after certain situations is important. So yep. Another way to also kind of play around neutral like that. You can also you have to move. You have to know the situation. Kind of have to know the situation. Like once you get familiarized with the situation, like you can see it. You can see it from a mile away. Like, see how you can do that? You try to use JB to cover that spot. JC is a little too slow, depending on the situation. So you kind of do it like that. Air dash. Cover that. You can also do that as well. You can run. Like if you know they're gonna air dash or stuff like that, you can do stuff like that. But yeah. So those are like some examples how you would use opted barrel, kind of force them to do something like that. You know. So those are like some ways how you can like try to use that neutral. Another thing I like to use for neutral is J2C. So J2C has interesting movement. By the way, can anybody still hear me? I want to make sure you guys can still hear me. I don't want to be still talking and then nobody can hear me. That would suck. I'm explaining stuff and nobody suck. Okay, good. So yeah, so J2C. What you can do with this, you can TK it, right? So you can TK this move into an air dash, into a back air dash, go into another jump if you want to. It's actually pretty good. It's actually really important to know because you can do that. I don't know. There's a lot of little players that are actually not aware that you can still jump like that. It's also good for baiting anti-airs or baiting them to in certain approaches. So, for example, let's say let's see. Let's see what happens. Right? Okay, so let's say every time you ever do a jump in, they always anti-air you. They anti-air you every time you do a jump in. Let's say that happens. What you can do, you come in like that. So that's how you would use J2C in certain neutral situations. You would use it, like if you set them up to believing that you're going for a jump in, simple jump ins like that, and they react to it, you can use the J2C to kind of bait them. So what you do is use the J2C to hold your position. You use the hold your position to bait them into anti-air, and then air dash back into a hit confirm. This actually is useful in certain situations. You can catch a lot of people like that because a lot of them are not aware of that. But you have to be careful though. So yeah, you can get back in like that. So yep. So that's how you use it to fake out a jump in. Kind of do it like that. Or whatnot. So you kind of like TK it. Sometimes the J2C will hit him out of the anti-air, which is fine too. But yeah, but you would normally use it in that fashion. Another way you would use it, you would be on the opposite side of the screen, and you would just use J2C to kind of have them engage with you. So they may run, right? They might run in, thinking they can get you know, they can get in for free, and you can't come back in like that as well. So something like that can happen. See how you can get in? So yeah, so sometimes that will happen too. So yeah, you just have to be, yes, I have to be wary about it. So yeah, that is a thing. Also, alternatively, you can go backwards. You go backwards into another JC or whatnot. Also, alternatively, can do another J2C as well. Out of that. Unfortunately, there's nothing we can really do with that unless you have like 50 or whatnot. If you did like another J2C. But yeah, that is something you can do. So that's part of neutral as well, using J2C as a means to kind of like bait your opponent into like certain kinds of movements. So yeah, so that is something you can. In terms of movement, right? Let's say ground movement. your grab movement is mostly comprised of micro dash ins with barrier guards like that, or dash ins dash ins standing or crouching. I prefer crouching just in case they like to throw out lows like 3C or whatnot. You gotta be careful about that. You don't want to be doing this all the time, just like straight blocking up. You also want to be careful about lows. No, because I did already make arrangements with my woman. She's already nice enough to give me this time to do this stream. I'm supposed to be hanging out with her later on after this, but I can't do any online matches on broadcast. I will try to do it at some time later, if possible, but don't count on it. Don't count on it. But that is something I am looking forward to doing later on in the future. So do stay tuned for that, if possible. Anyhow, so neutral. Let's see. Barrier guard with dashes. That is important. That is definitely important. You want to make sure that you got your dashes down. In terms of movement in the air, most of the time you pretty much like you can run like this. You may see some of the lows do that. A lot of JC, it's air dash backwards into JC. I use the octave barrel. Just a lot of sporadic movement. You see that? Just a lot of sporadic movement. It's really all about how you handle your positioning. As long as you know where you want to be at, like, it just depends. So that is something you have to practice. Give me 1 second, guys. Got a phone call coming.
目障りだ。
おやめください隊員。
目障りだ。
おやめください隊員。
目障りだ。
おやめください隊員。
目障りだ。
おやめください隊員。
目障りだ。
おやめください隊員。おやめください隊員。
目障りだ。目障りだ。
おやめください隊員。
目
お
障りだ。
やめください隊員。
目障りだ。
おやめください隊員。おやめください隊員。おやめください隊員。
目障りだ。
おやめください隊員。
目障りだ。
おやめください隊員。おやめください隊員。
目障りだ。
おやめください隊員。
目障りだ。 目障りだ。
おやめください隊員。
目障りだ。
おやめください隊員。
Hey, can you guys hear me? Hello. No, listen.
目障りだ。
おやめください隊員。
目障りだ。
おやめください隊員。
目障りだ。
おやめください隊員。おやめください隊員。
目障りだ。
おやめください隊員。
目障りだ。
おやめください隊員。
目障りだ。
おやめください隊員。
目障りだ。
おやめください隊員。
目障りだ。
おやめください隊員。 ださい隊員。
目障り
おやめください隊員。おやめください隊員。
目障り
おやめください隊員。
目障り
Can anybody else hear me?
目障りだ